What if the purest form of love and courage came not from fame, not from talent, but from the silent bond between a boy and his rescued monkey? That night on the grand AGT stage, no one knew they were about to witness something that would redefine what it means to feel. As the lights dimmed and the crowd murmured in curiosity, a small figure stepped onto the stage, a thin boy in worn shoes, holding the hand of a tiny monkey clinging gently to his arm. The boy looked around, not for the cameras or judges, but for comfort in the creature beside him. It was as if the monkey's touch was his shield against the world's noise. The audience smiled at the sight, some amused, others confused. What could this little duo possibly do on the world's biggest stage? But behind their fragile appearance was a story untold, one of survival, of loss, and of an unbreakable friendship formed under the harshest conditions. As the music began, something magical happened. Miko, the monkey, didn't run, didn't dance for laughs. Instead, he sat beside Liam, eyes locked on him, almost human, almost knowing. When Liam began to sing, the air in the hall shifted. His voice trembled at first, pure and untrained, yet full of something the stage rarely hears, truth. And then, the unthinkable. Midway through the song, as Liam sang of love and loss, Miko reached out and placed his tiny hand on the microphone, tilting it toward his friend's trembling lips, as if helping him carry the weight of the words. The entire hall went silent. That moment, frozen in time, would soon become one of AGT's. Liam Santos had always been the quiet one, the kind of child who spoke less but felt more. Born in a small coastal town in the Philippines, he grew up surrounded by the sound of waves and the silence of poverty. His mother worked at a nearby pier, cleaning boats for a living, while Liam spent most of his time watching the sunset from the same broken wooden fence behind their house. That fence, rough and splintered, was where he first learned to sing, softly, to himself, so no one would hear. Music was never something he was taught, it was something he needed. Each note became his way of talking to the world that never listened. He would hum while helping his mother wash clothes, or when he gathered scraps of food from the market for Miko, his rescued monkey. Miko had been found injured near a roadside stall 2 years ago, crying in pain, his tiny body trembling. While others walked past, Liam had stopped. He couldn't explain why, maybe because he saw himself in the little creature, small, unnoticed, yet still hoping someone would care. Since that day, Liam and Miko became inseparable. Miko followed him everywhere, clinging to his shoulder, sharing his meals, sleeping beside him under the thin mosquito net that barely covered them both. When Liam sang, Miko listened. When Liam cried, Miko wiped his tears with tiny fingers. Life wasn't easy. Some days, there was no food, no electricity, no comfort. But what Liam lacked in comfort, he found in compassion. He had a habit of picking up small pebbles near the sea and carving tiny symbols on them, his way of storing memories. One stone had a heart, another had the initials M+L. He didn't dream of fame or money. His only dream was simple, to make people feel something real when he sang. To prove that even a boy from nowhere, with nothing but a rescued monkey by his side, could touch the hearts of millions. And when he finally stood on that AGT stage, trembling but brave, that dream was about to come alive. Life had never been kind to Liam Santos. He had known the taste of hunger, the sting of rejection, and the quiet ache of growing up too soon. But nothing hurt more than the day he lost his mother. It had been an ordinary morning, the sun rising over the harbor, the smell of salt in the air, when the storm came. His mother had gone to work early, as she always did, determined to earn enough for his school fees. But that day, the sea turned violent. The winds howled, waves crashed against the wooden docks, and by the time the storm passed, she was gone. No one could find her. Liam was only 8. The sound of her laughter vanished from their small home, replaced by silence. He had no father, no relatives nearby. Just Miko, the little monkey who seemed to understand his every tear. Nights became endless. He would lie awake, clutching his mother's old scarf, listening to Miko's soft breathing beside him. The world moved on, but Liam didn't know how to. The streets became his classroom. The beach became his home. He sang not for applause, but to remember, because when he sang, it felt like his mother could still hear him. Yet, deep inside, he carried a fear he never spoke of: what if no one ever saw him for who he truly was? Sometimes he'd see kids his age with their parents, holding hands, laughing, carrying schoolbags, and he would look away. The loneliness was sharp, almost physical. His songs became softer, his smiles fewer. Even when he performed for coins in the market, he sang with his eyes closed, as if afraid to meet the world's gaze. Miko became his voice when he couldn't speak. The little monkey would tug at his shirt, bring him crumbs, wrap his tiny arms around Liam's neck whenever the tears came. It was in one of those quiet, lonely nights, beneath a sky full of indifferent stars, that Liam made a silent promise: someday, somehow, he would sing on a stage where the world had to listen. Not for fame. Not for pity. But for the mother who never got to hear him finish his song. It happened on a day that began like any other: humid air, the smell of fried rice from a nearby stall, and the soft chatter of a small Filipino town waking up. Liam was sitting near the marketplace, singing quietly to Miko, hoping a few coins might fall into his dented tin cup. His voice was gentle, cracked, but filled with emotion that made even the vendors pause for a moment before returning to their busy lives. That morning, a woman wearing a bright blue cap stopped to listen. She didn't say a word, just stood there, watching the boy and the little monkey performing beneath the shade of an old mango tree. When Liam finished, the woman knelt down and smiled softly. She introduced herself as a local talent scout, visiting her hometown from abroad. Her eyes sparkled with both curiosity and warmth. She told Liam about America's Got Talent, a show where ordinary people did extraordinary things. Liam didn't understand much at first, but when she showed him clips on her phone, the lights, the crowd, the judges, his eyes widened. It looked like another world, far away from the dusty roads he knew. He laughed shyly and shook his head. "No one would want to see me," he whispered under his breath. But the woman didn't give up. She gave him her contact card and said, "Sometimes, the world needs to see what kindness looks like." Then she left, disappearing into the noise of the market. That night, Liam couldn't sleep. He sat by the window, Miko on his lap, staring at the stars. The scout's words replayed in his mind. He had never dreamed that someone like him could stand on a stage like that. But when Miko placed his tiny hand on Liam's chest, the same way he always did when he wanted comfort, something inside Liam shifted. It wasn't confidence. It wasn't courage. It was faith. For the first time, he felt that maybe his mother's love hadn't vanished with the waves. Maybe she had sent that woman his way. The next morning, with trembling hands and a hopeful heart, Liam filled out the AGT online audition form, unaware that his life, and the life of his little monkey, was about to change forever. The days that followed were some of the hardest Liam had ever known. Preparing for something as big as America's Got Talent felt like standing at the edge of a mountain he didn't know how to climb. He had no teacher, no fancy microphone, and no stage to rehearse on, just the open air, his fragile voice, and Miko, who sat beside him faithfully every evening as he practiced beneath the fading light. Liam often sang until his throat ached, stopping only when the stars appeared. Sometimes he would lose hope midway, sitting on the sand with his knees pulled close to his chest. "What if they laugh at me?" he would whisper into the night, though the only answer came from the soft rustling of the sea breeze. Miko would climb onto his shoulder, nuzzle against his neck, and stay there until Liam's trembling stopped. When the acceptance email came weeks later, Liam didn't believe it at first. The world suddenly felt too big, too fast. The journey to America was overwhelming: airports, loud crowds, flashing lights. He had never left his town before, and now he was about to stand before millions. Every step reminded him of how small he was, just a boy in worn shoes, clutching a monkey that was his only family. The first time he walked onto the AGT stage for rehearsal, the bright lights blinded him. The stage floor felt cold beneath his bare feet, and the silence of the empty arena pressed against his chest. He almost turned back. But then he remembered the promise he made, the one whispered to the stars back home, that he would sing for his mother. Each day leading up to his performance, he practiced harder, not just his voice but his courage. He learned to breathe through fear, to find strength in his pain. He began to realize that his gift wasn't just singing, it was feeling. He didn't need perfection, he needed honesty. By the time the show day arrived, Liam wasn't the same timid boy anymore. His heart still trembled, but now it beat with purpose, a quiet, powerful belief that love and kindness could echo louder than any applause. The night of the performance arrived like a dream Liam couldn't quite believe was real. The vast stage shimmered beneath the golden lights of America's Got Talent. The judges sat in their seats, Simon Cowell at the center, his expression unreadable, while thousands of faces waited in silence. The camera zoomed in on the small boy walking barefoot, a little monkey perched on his shoulder, clutching his sleeve tightly. For a brief moment, Liam froze. His heart pounded so loudly he could hear it echo in his ears. But then, Miko turned his head, gave a small squeak, and gently pressed his tiny hand against Liam's cheek, the same way his mother used to before bed. That touch anchored him. The trembling stopped. The music began softly, a slow, haunting piano melody. Liam took a deep breath and began to sing. His voice was fragile at first, barely more than a whisper, but it carried something that words couldn't, a story of love, loss, and hope. The crowd fell silent, as if afraid to breathe. Every note rose from the depths of his soul, echoing through the hall like a prayer. And then, something extraordinary happened. As the song reached its emotional peak, Liam's voice cracked, his eyes filling with tears, and just when it seemed he might falter, Miko moved closer, placing his tiny hand on the microphone. The audience gasped. The monkey looked straight into Liam's eyes, as if reminding him he wasn't alone. That single moment, a child and his rescued friend sharing one song, one heart, shattered every barrier in the room. The judges stared, stunned. When the final note faded, the silence that followed was almost holy. Then, the entire hall erupted in applause, rising like a wave. Simon Cowell sat motionless for a second, his eyes glistening. Then he stood up, slowly, almost reverently, and pressed the golden buzzer. Golden confetti rained down, glimmering like falling stars around the boy and his monkey. Liam closed his eyes, tears streaming down his face, as Miko hugged him tightly. It wasn't just victory, it was a promise fulfilled, a song that had finally reached the one who was always listening above. When the lights dimmed and the confetti settled, Liam stood there in stunned silence, clutching Miko close to his heart. The cheers faded into a soft hum, and in that quiet moment, he felt something deeper than joy, peace. For the first time in years, he wasn't that lonely boy from the fishing village. He wasn't the child who sang to the waves hoping his mother might hear. He was simply a boy who had found his purpose, to remind the world that love, in its purest form, can heal even the deepest wounds. Backstage, as he held the golden buzzer trophy in trembling hands, Liam looked up toward the ceiling, his lips moving silently in gratitude. Somewhere in his heart, he felt his mother's presence, gentle, proud, and smiling through the starlight. Miko nestled against his neck, their bond stronger than ever. They had walked through pain, hunger, and loneliness, yet stood together beneath a rain of gold. The story of Liam and Miko spread across the world within hours. People watched not just a performance, but a lesson, that compassion has a voice, and it can be heard even through the smallest souls. News anchors called it the performance that made Simon Cowell speechless, but for Liam, it wasn't about fame or headlines. It was about proving that broken hearts can still sing, that even when life takes everything, love finds a way to give something back. In a world often chasing perfection, Liam showed that true beauty lies in imperfection, in cracked voices, trembling hands, and fragile dreams. Because sometimes, what touches hearts isn't greatness, but genuineness. As the episode ended, the camera captured one final image, a boy and his monkey walking hand in hand into the backstage glow, leaving behind footprints of gold dust and memories that would never fade. And if someone asked what made that moment unforgettable, the answer would be simple: it wasn't the song or the stage, it was the love between a boy and the little creature who taught him that no one is ever truly alone when they carry kindness in their heart.